Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world joining this video. Thank you for joining us. And today we're going to talk a little bit about falls prevention. I'm here with my wife and handler, Lynn, who has some questions to put to me as well about the risks of falling and the prevention of falling. So let me just start off by saying everybody is at risk of falling. Everybody. Any one of us can fall over at any time. There's hazards all over the place. So we just have to be mindful of that. Where it becomes more difficult is where people who have got a dementia type illness or a neurological disorder such as Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia are two types of neurological and neurocognitive disorder where there is an increased risk of falls because of the disorder. So maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that. But there are many reasons why people with a dementia type illness and a neurological disorder are at a greater risk of falling. One of those reasons is medication. Many people, especially the older generation, who are taking what we call polypharmacy, which is a number of medications, they can increase the risk of falls. Eyesight, developing cataracts, macular degeneration, tunnel vision, the loss of peripheral vision, all those things feeding to an increased risk of falls. Also, alcohol, drinking alcohol and mixing alcohol with medication is a big risk factor. And places around the home where there is slips, trips and fall hazards such as wet floors, slippery floors, carpets that aren't fitted properly, rugs that might slide. In the last couple of months, I've had a couple of patients who have had some really nasty falls simply because of the house situation. So we've got to be aware of that. And if we're supporting somebody with a neurological, neurocognitive disorder, be cognizant of the fact that we need to make the environment safer. It needs to be bright as well. It has to have lots of natural light and lots of unnatural light coming into the room so that people have got a better chance of seeing stuff. So there is a number of reasons why people are at risk of falls. One of the other reasons is a lack of exercise and poor nutrition. People who exercise regularly are used to balancing, are used to lifting things, moving things, running on a treadmill, running on a track, running outdoors. So they're used to having a better balance. People who ride horses, like myself, our balance is pretty cool. You know, it's a pretty good balance for riding a horse. People who ride motorbikes, kind of same thing. They have a cool balance. So there are reasons why I encourage people to exercise every day, regularly for at least 30 minutes a day. And the balance is affected by a part of the brain called the cerebellum. And the cerebellum is something that you can work with and strengthen and improve balance. There's a little exercise that you can do to improve your balance, and it is simply by doing this. If you do this for a minute and then swap over and do this for a minute, when it comes to balancing on one leg, which is something that we ask people to do during assessments, evaluations and things to see how long you can maintain that, standing on one leg is a way in which you can improve your balance. So if you can stand on one leg for 10 seconds and then swap over and stand on the other leg for 10 seconds, you're in a good place. So try that if you need to improve your balance, but of course hold on to something. Don't just go straight into standing on one leg or you're going to fall over. Make sure there's somebody there to help you, somebody to support you. Something else that we can do as well, and you're not going to be able to see my whole body on camera when I show you this, but If you can, you cross your arms onto your shoulders, and if you can do at least 10 of these in 30 seconds, that is also good for balance and, funnily enough, longevity. So it's a simple exercise. Sit on your chair and you stand and sit and stand and sit and stand and sit. So you do as many of those as you can. And as I said, if you can do 10 in 30 seconds, you're in a good place. So we really have to think about those things and think about being able to maintain balance and making sure that our legs are strong and powerful as well. That's another thing. You need to work on your legs. You need to make sure you don't skip leg day, as many people who go to the gym love to skip leg day, because you end up at the end of leg day like jelly. So people like to skip that. But it's really important that you maintain strength in your legs, maintain muscle in your legs. As we age, there's a condition called sarcopenia, where we start to lose muscle mass. But we don't have to. Muscle mass does not have to reduce as we age. It can remain as it is. It can increase through weight training. So there's lots you can do to maintain your muscle mass, and that's important when it comes to balance. What about footwear? Got to make sure that your foot is supported, that your ankle is supported. So good quality trainers, or if we're in America, sneakers, tennis shoes, whatever term we use, good solid heel, good solid support of the ankles as well. There's an organisation called Silver Sneakers, where older people go and exercise and that kind of stuff, and that helps reduce falls for people as well. So when it comes specifically to people with, let's say, a probable Alzheimer's disease, then there may be difficulty as the light is changing. And I'm not talking about sundowning syndrome here. I'm talking more about the visual cortex and how things are perceived by people with Alzheimer's disease as the light changes. And we can look in the corner at a coat rack, for example. We might put our coat on there, our hat, our scarf, and to somebody living with Alzheimer's disease, it could look like there's a stranger standing there staring at you. It's different to a hallucination. It's nothing to do with hallucinations. It's to do with perceiving shapes and things like that. So bear in mind that as well. I did allude to Lewy body type dementia, and with Lewy body type dementia, there's a difficulty with spatial awareness. S-P-A-T-I-A-L, spatial awareness. And that means that depth perception can be affected, but also colour. So if your floor changes from being a wooden floor to carpet and a different colour of carpet, that can cause a problem for people who have Lewy body dementia. They might try to step over it and then fall over. Supermarkets are notoriously bad for this because they will place things on the floor as an advertisement. So, for example, if there's an event coming up, they might put this great big sticker on the floor of a black football, and you're walking through the supermarket and you see this and it catches you off guard if you're not looking, and you'll sidestep it. I've done it myself. People with Lewy body dementia, that'd crucify them. That would be it. They'd be falling over, and there'd be a big issue with that. So we have to really think about colours and shapes and flooring and all those kind of things, specifically for people who have Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. So that's where I wanted to go with this, and I know that Lynn's got some questions. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Lynn.
Hello. All right, so I wanted to touch on people with Parkinson's. They have a tendency to freeze and not be able to move. So that's something I just wanted to point out, that if your loved one's been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, that would not be uncommon for them to freeze and not be able to take a step. So those people should be supported at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. And also with that is the cogwheel movement that people with Parkinson's often experience. The cogwheel movement, which is a very, very slow movement, which may increase the risk of somebody falling as well. So, good point.
Okay. Also, what do you think about supplements for people with osteoarthritis or, you know, brittle bones, or as we age, you know, they keep telling us to take calcium and make sure we get enough calcium to try to prevent our bones from getting frail.
Mm-hmm.
What role does that have in risks of falling?
I think you should always seek medical advice if you have questions like that. Ask your physician or ask your nurse practitioner. However, what we do encourage older people to do is drink full fat milk, not skimmed milk or semi-skimmed milk, but full fat milk, because obviously that gives you calcium and is good for your bones and your teeth as well. So in terms of supplements, because it's very individual and people are on different forms of medication and there's different interactions with that, people would need to speak to their primary physician or their nurse practitioner to find out what supplements are good for them. Many thousands of supplements are a complete waste of time. There's research now that demonstrates that people who take supplements have an increased mortality rate. So people die younger if they're taking supplements. So it's something that has to be investigated and it has to be spoken about on an individual basis.
I would like to point out that it's a good idea to make sure that there's a clear path from the bed to the bathroom for older people, all older people, whether you have a neurocognitive disorder or not, with the proper lighting.
Absolutely, and me included. You know, I need to have good lighting and a clear pathway from the bedroom to the bathroom as well. So it's not just, it's not just older people, but it's sensible for everybody to have that, because we just need to be cognizant of our environment, and it does change. Our environment does change from time to time. Things get moved around, lighting changes, and if you get up to go to the bathroom at 7 o'clock in the morning, there is some natural light coming into the room. But if you get up and go to the bathroom at 1 o'clock in the morning and there's no light, you need to make sure that there are plenty of night lights available. And as Lynn said, a clear pathway.
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone to, after they watch this video, just to walk around their home from the point of view of someone that's a fall risk, and walk through your house, start at the front door and walk through each room one by one and look around at the floor, at furniture placement, at objects on furniture. You've had patients that have broken glassware by getting up in the middle of the night and not being able to see where they are. Look at your nightstand of yourself and your loved one to declutter and make it very simple for your loved one and for yourself.
Yeah, and that just reminds me of people who, if people are moving into an assisted living community or a memory care community and it's a brand new environment for them, what Lynn has just said becomes even more important, because it's a totally alien environment. And when that person wakes up in the night to go to the bathroom, then people become disorientated. You'll know from yourselves when you've stayed in a hotel, when you've been on holiday and vacation, you stay in a hotel the first night, and this isn't alcohol induced, by the way, but the first night you very often you will wake up and you'll be disorientated because you're not too sure where the bathroom is or whatever it is that you're doing, because it's a totally different and alien environment. So if you add to that people's cognitive issues, disorientation in time and place, and confusion, then that adds to it. So very often in a community like that, in an assisted living or a specifically memory care, the bed should be angled towards the bathroom. So when the person sits up in bed, they should be able to see where the bathroom is. And that's always been a design for memory care communities, especially in the UK.
I wanted to ask about when you know your loved one's a fall risk, but you can't be with them 24/7. Some people have talked about using bed alarms or alarms on people's wheelchairs or seating. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's so much assistive technology available today to help with that. There are little mats you can put under the mattress, under the sheet, under the rug, under the carpet, under the mat next to the bed. That mustn't be a slip risk, by the way, the mat, having the mat there, it must be secure. There's some sensors you can put under there to alert people that Frank has just got out of bed, and so that people can go and assist where necessary. There's also the pendants, the fall pendants that alert the organisation that run the falls. I don't know what they're called, the organisations that you can link into, who will pick up on people who have fallen and alert emergency services. Wheelchairs, Lynn, what is this?
Yeah, some patients have talked about a sensor in a loved one's wheelchair to let them know if the person's gotten up. Let's say you have to leave the room for a moment and you're concerned.
Yeah.
Obviously we try all we can do to prevent, but
yeah, it's the same little sense. It's a little sensor mat that goes under the wheelchair cushion. Yeah, there's so many different technologies. There are alarms, there are clocks, there are watches, there are satellite navigation things that you can put in shoes, so that you can ensure that that person is tracked and you know where they are and what they're doing and whether they get into any kind of distress, or if they get lost. For example, people go outside, they may well get lost when they're out and about, and that can be an alert. People will fall when they're out and about, it can alert. So there's a lot of assistive technology around today that back in 15, 20 years ago, we had nothing like that. So we've got a lot to assist us and help us now. So, and that is one thing to consider and look at when we're talking about reducing the risks of people falling and hurting themselves. Because of course, Lynn, what is the major concern of an older person falling? What is it that is at real risk?
well, I don't want to say death, but concussion, heart attack, stroke.
When people fall, older people were always concerned about a fractured hip, the neck of femur. And if you are old and frail and you break your neck of femur, then there is an increased risk of death. So, because this bleeds a lot, when you break any area around your pelvis, there's a lot of bleeding. And it takes also time for it to heal. And if you're of a certain age, it's difficult to perform the operation to fix it, because we don't want people going under a general anaesthetic, because a GA for somebody who is older is a massive risk in itself. So best prevent it in the first place, and exercise, working out, good diet, good nutrition, and all those risk prevention, all those falls risk prevention strategies reduce those things from happening.
What about the role of occupational therapy or physical therapy? What does that do?
Yeah, I think where physical therapy is concerned, they usually after the event. So physical therapy usually helps people after they've fallen, fractured a neck of femur, and then we're talking corrective surgery and followed by physical therapy. So it's best to prevent it in the first place. But physical therapy is helpful, it is beneficial if somebody's got through those other stages.
Or if you're just fragile to start with, it doesn't hurt to tell your doctor that you would like to do some kind of supervised physical therapy to maybe strengthen your back because you know that's a weak area for you, or your left leg, or whatever it is.
Right. I think a gym membership is crucial for everyone, or if you have a home gym, use that. Weight training, we've spoken so many times about the impact and the benefits of weight training, and there's research all the time. Even I've just read some research recently at the weekend that talked about the benefits of weight training. It's incredible.
Even if you're 80?
Even if you're 80, if you're 90, doesn't matter. There's no excuse.
Even if you're home on the couch.
Absolutely. You can do some weight training. You don't have to be bench pressing 250 pounds or lifting 30, 40 pounds. You don't have to do that. You can sit in your chair and you can have a can of beans in each hand and do some of that, It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, the weight isn't important. The exercise is important. And people who swim, many people here in Arizona, many people have swimming pools. So got to make the most of that as well.
Very good. I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like you to share this information with all your friends, all your colleagues, all your family members. Share the YouTube channel too. We are closing in on our first 500 subscribers. So that's absolutely brilliant, because it means that around the world people are getting this information and learning and getting education and knowledge. So please keep sharing that. Follow me on Instagram if you don't already do so. Share that. I post maybe 3 or 4 times a day different pieces of information, not just about dementia, but also about what's going on in my own personal life and the fun things that I get up to and that kind of stuff. So follow Instagram. One of the things that I have talked about extensively and always encourage is connection. People connecting with other people, being involved, engaging, in participating in events and all those kind of things. Engagement with people is absolutely crucial. Isolation is very detrimental to people who are living with a cognitive change. Connection. And this is the same thing with people who are experiencing trauma, people who experience PTSD, people with addiction. A piece of research that came out of, I think it was Portugal. Portugal had this massive problem with addiction, and it was around about 1% of the total population had an addiction, which is quite high. So they tried all these different things, and they incarcerated people, punished people, and all those kind of things for using meth and being alcoholics, and that leads to crime. So eventually somebody said, right, let's get all the professionals together and let's talk about how we can address this issue. What is the best way to address this issue? And they said, right, legalize every drug, legalize everything, decriminalize everything. And the money that was spent incarcerating people and the money that was spent on little failed projects, use that money for encouraging people to connect. And lo and behold, the addiction rates diminished to such a low percentage. So it's about connection. We must all maintain connection. So I want to leave you with that. Okay. Next week may be our last video for 2 weeks because I'll be out of the country. What we're going to talk about is the impact of music. So we're going to be looking at music next week, but we've also got a bit of an initiative going on as well. So tune in to next week's video and learn about the impact of music, but also learn about the initiative that we've got set up for you. Okay, thanks guys. Dr. Dan Nightingale, drdanielnightingale.com is the website. Have a fantastic week, and remember, dump the soda.